In the neon-lit underbelly of Hong Kong, where skyscrapers cast long shadows over rain-slicked streets, the Leung brothers ruled with an iron fist. Victor Leung, the elder, was a mafia kingpin whose name alone silenced rooms. His younger brother, Kai, was his enforcer, charismatic, volatile, and fiercely loyal. Together, they commanded a criminal empire that even the government feared to touch. Their wealth flowed from drugs, extortion, and whispers of darker trades, but their bond as brothers was the steel core of their power. Kai's wife, Sophia, a fiery woman from Italy, was an outsider in this world of triad codes and blood oaths. She had married Kai for love, or so she told herself, but the gilded cage of Hong Kong's underworld chafed at her. Night after night, she whispered to Kai about a new life in America, a place where they could start fresh, free from Victor's shadow. Kai, torn between his brother's expectations and Sophia's dreams, hesitated. America was a gamble, and loyalty to Victor was all he'd ever known. Victor, ever the strategist, saw an opportunity. The American drug trade was ripe for the taking, and Kai's restlessness could be useful. Go, Victor told him one stormy night in their penthouse overlooking Victoria Harbor. Build our empire in the States. Make the Leung name feared across the ocean. Kai's jaw tightened, but he nodded. Sophia's eyes gleamed with triumph. Act 1, A New World, a darker game. Los Angeles greeted Kai and Sophia with sun-soaked streets and endless possibility. Kai threw himself into building the drug cartel, forging alliances with local gangs and navigating the city's criminal undercurrents. Sophia, however, thrived in a way Kai hadn't expected. She traded her silks for leather jackets, her accent softening as she charmed her way into LA's elite circles. To Kai, she was living the dream they'd planned. To the world, she was something else entirely. Unbeknownst to Kai, Sophia had her own agenda. She'd fallen for a slick American hustler named Marcus, a man with a silver tongue and no moral compass. Together, they built a secret empire within Kai's cartel, human trafficking, exploiting desperate immigrants, and a sophisticated identity theft ring. Sophia's heart, once softened by love, had hardened into something cold and calculating. She saw Kai's loyalty to Victor as a chain, and Marcus as her ticket to true freedom. Their crimes cast a shadow over the city's poorest neighborhoods, where a fruit seller named Javier lived a quiet life with his girlfriend, Elena. Javier was no hero, just a man with calloused hands and a stubborn heart, selling mangoes and oranges from a weathered cart in East LA. Elena, a nurse with a laugh that could light up the darkest days, was his anchor. They dreamed of a small house, maybe a family, but Sophia's schemes shattered their world. Her goons stole Javier's identity, draining his savings and leaving him with nothing but debts he couldn't explain. Worse, Elena's hospital records were tampered with, threatening her job. Javier's simple life was unraveling, and he knew someone had to pay. Act 2, The hero rises. Javier wasn't a fighter, but he was no coward either. Armed with nothing but rage and a rusted tire iron, he tracked Sophia's goons to a derelict warehouse in the city's industrial sprawl. The fight was brutal, fists against knives, desperation against cruelty. Javier's heart pounded as he ducked a blade, his tire iron cracking against a goon's skull. By dawn, he'd reclaimed a stack of stolen IDs, including his own, and left the warehouse smoldering behind him. The local papers called him the fruit seller vigilante. A grainy photo of Javier, bruised but defiant, splashed across the front page of the LA Sentinel. The story reached far beyond the city, catching the eye of Victor Leung in Hong Kong. Victor hadn't spoken to Kai in years, vague texts and missed calls had replaced their once tight bond. Sophia always had an excuse: Kai was busy, Kai was traveling, Kai was fine. But the newspaper story, with its mention of a shadowy trafficking ring, lit a spark of suspicion in Victor's mind. Something was wrong. Without a word to Kai, Victor boarded a private jet to LA, traveling under an alias. The mafia boss who ruled Hong Kong's underworld slipped into the city like a ghost, his tailored suit replaced by a nondescript jacket, his eyes scanning every shadow. Act 3, Truth and Betrayal. Victor's men moved swiftly, tracking Javier to his fruit cart. In a dimly lit alley, they cornered him, their guns glinting under the streetlights. Talk, Victor said, his voice low and dangerous. Javier, bloodied but unbowed, spilled everything: Sophia's trafficking, the identity theft, the pain her schemes had inflicted on countless families. Victor's face was stone, but inside, a storm was brewing. He'd sent Kai to America to build an empire, not to be ensnared by a traitor. Victor confronted Sophia in the penthouse she shared with Kai, a glass-walled fortress overlooking the city. "Where's my brother?" he demanded, his voice cutting through the silence. Sophia's smile was venomous. She stepped aside, revealing a hidden door. Behind it, Kai sat bound and gagged, his eyes hollow with betrayal. Sophia's confession came in a torrent. She'd married Marcus in secret, siphoning millions from the cartel to fund their escape. Kai had been her prisoner for months, a pawn in her endgame. "You thought you controlled me," Sophia spat, her Italian accent sharp as a blade. "But I'm done with both of you." Before Victor could act, Sophia's men stormed the room. In the chaos, she slipped away, but not before issuing one final blow. She'd kidnapped Elena, Javier's girlfriend, as leverage. "Find me, and she dies," Sophia hissed over a burner phone, her voice dripping with malice. Act 4, the chase. Victor and Javier, bound by necessity, formed an uneasy alliance. Victor's resources, money, men, and firepower, paired with Javier's street smarts and unrelenting drive to save Elena. Kai, freed but broken, insisted on joining them, his guilt fueling a desperate need for redemption. "She was my wife," he muttered, loading a pistol. "This ends with me." The trail led to a derelict shipyard on the LA coast, where Sophia and Marcus planned to vanish with their stolen fortune. The final confrontation was a symphony of chaos. Gunfire echoed off rusted cranes, waves crashed against the docks, and Javier's heart raced as he searched for Elena. Victor and Kai fought side by side, their brotherly bond rekindled in the heat of battle. Sophia, cornered, held a knife to Elena's throat, her eyes wild with desperation. "You can't stop me." Sophia screamed, but Javier saw his chance. He lunged, tackling Sophia as Victor disarmed Marcus. Elena, trembling but alive, clung to Javier as Kai faced his wife. "Why?" he asked, his voice breaking. Sophia's only answer was a sneer before she was cuffed and dragged away. Epilogue, Ashes and Beginnings. Sophia and Marcus were handed over to the authorities, their empire dismantled. Victor, for the first time in years, embraced Kai, promising a new start, not as mafia lords, but as brothers. Javier and Elena returned to their quiet life, their love stronger for the ordeal. The fruit cart reopened, and though the scars remained, Javier's smile carried a new strength. As the sun set over LA, Victor stood alone on the docks, staring at the horizon. The Liang Empire would survive, but he wondered if he could ever outrun its shadows. For now, he'd won, but at what cost?